Have you ever felt like you're constantly trying to hold on to life, but the tighter you hold on, the more it slips through your fingers? Like sand being squeezed between your palms, absolute control is an illusion that keeps us trapped in a cycle of anxiety and frustration. From an early age, we're taught to fight for what we want, to set rigid plans, and to make sure nothing gets out of our control. But life has its own paths, and often those paths don't follow the scripts we've created. And what happens when things don't go as planned? We suffer. We feel fear, frustration, and an emptiness we can't fill. The uncomfortable truth is this: the more we try to control every detail, the more we become prisoners of uncertainty. We spend immense energy trying to predict, calculate, avoid failure, and minimize risk. But in the end, no matter how hard we try, life always finds a way to remind us that we have no control over everything. Imagine a river. If you try to grab the water, your hands will come up empty. But if you learn to swim with the current, you can go with its flow without resistance. This is the great lesson that few of us learn. Resistance creates suffering, while acceptance sets us free. Fear of the unknown makes us want to hold on tight to what we have, even if it no longer serves us. Relationships that have lost their luster, jobs that drain our energy, beliefs that limit us. All of these things remain in our lives because we cannot let go. But what if there was another way? What if, instead of fighting the current, we could learn to flow with it? Lao Tzu teaches us that true strength lies not in holding on, but in lightness. And this is where we begin our journey to understand the power of letting go. Because sometimes, the greatest act of courage is not holding on, but learning to let go. We cling to relationships, jobs, beliefs, and even old versions of ourselves because we believe they will make us feel secure. But in reality, attachment holds us back, suffocates us, and prevents us from growing. Lao Tzu teaches that attachment is born of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. And fear, in turn, is born of the illusion of permanence. We want to believe that everything can be fixed and controlled, but life is movement, not stagnation. Think of a handful of sand. If you open your hand, the grains rest gently on your skin. But if you squeeze it tightly, the sand slips through your fingers. The same happens with everything we desperately try to hold on to. Forced relationships fall apart, obsessive goals keep us from happiness, and the fear of loss prevents us from truly living. Attachment also robs us of freedom. When we are obsessed with holding on to something, we fail to see new possibilities. A boat tied to a harbor may seem safe, but its true nature is to sail. Lao Tzu's wisdom invites us to see impermanence as a natural flow of life. He reminds us that letting go is not about losing, but about making room for something new. When we stop resisting the movement of life, we find peace. And here comes the big question. If true power lies in letting go, why do we insist so much on holding on? The answer lies in the way we have been taught to view life. Life is like a river, always in motion, flowing effortlessly, without resistance. But we, stubbornly, insist on rowing against the current. We struggle to shape the world to our will, we cling to the past, we fear the future. And in the end, we grow tired, frustrated, and lost. Lao Tzu saw this truth thousands of years ago. He observed nature and realized something essential. Nothing in existence tries to force its way. The wind blows where it should. The rain falls where it should. The bamboo bends in the storm, while the rigid tree breaks. Everything in the universe follows its natural flow, except us. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu describes the Tao as this invisible flow that governs all things. It is not a god, it is not a doctrine. It is simply the way, the natural order that guides us when we stop resisting. He teaches us that true strength lies not in imposition, but in adaptation. That the wise man does not fight life, but dances with it. But what about us? How do we apply this to our chaotic world? Think of all the times you tried to control something that was out of your reach. The relationship you tried to save on your own. The plan you insisted on following, even when everything indicated it was not the right one. The job that drained your soul, but that you dared not leave. How much suffering could have been avoided if you had just let go? The Tao invites us to do exactly that. Let go. It does not mean giving up, it means trusting. It means allowing life to take us where we need to be. So, what if you started letting go now? The unknown scares us. Since childhood, we are taught to seek security, to build a plan, to keep everything under control. Which college to choose? Which career path to follow? How to ensure financial stability? But life rarely follows a predictable script. Unexpected changes happen, plans fall apart, and when faced with the unknown, we feel fear. Lao Tzu teaches us that uncertainty is not an enemy, but a space of possibilities. The problem is not in the unpredictability of life, but in our resistance to it. We want immediate answers, guarantees, certainties. But the future cannot be tamed, and the more we try to control it, the more frustrated we become. Imagine the wind. It blows without a fixed destination, changes direction, dances across the sky without resistance. Now, think of the sea. The waves come and go, without ever tying themselves to the previous moment. That is nature, fluid, free. However, we behave like boats tied to the port, afraid to set sail for unknown waters. What if, instead of fearing uncertainty, we learned to navigate it? Accepting the unpredictable does not mean being passive. It means trusting that life unfolds as it should. It means realizing that, often, the best moments come precisely when we let go of the need for control. How many opportunities have you missed out on because you were afraid of the uncertain? How many paths have you failed to follow because you wanted guarantees? Lao Tzu invites us to let go of this need, to let life surprise us. Understanding detachment is one thing. Practicing it, however, is a daily challenge. The human mind has been trained to want control, seek security, and cling to the familiar. But Lao Tzu teaches us that true balance comes when we learn to let go. The first step is to accept the present moment. Too often, we resist what is, wishing things were different. We fight reality and, in doing so, create suffering. But life doesn't have to be a constant battle. When we accept the now, with its imperfections, uncertainties, and mysteries, we begin to free ourselves. The second step is to practice surrender. This doesn't mean being passive, but trusting that life has its own rhythm. Imagine that you are swimming in a river. If you fight against the current, you will waste energy and will have a hard time getting where you want to go. But if you learn to flow with it, you will find your way more easily. Detachment is this conscious choice not to fight against what you cannot control. Another essential aspect is letting go of rigid expectations. We create detailed images of how things should be, the ideal relationship, the perfect job, the life without challenges. But these expectations often imprison us, because reality rarely matches them. The secret is to make room for the unexpected, allowing life to surprise us. Real stories illustrate this practice. There are those who lost a job and, instead of despairing, trusted the flow of life and found something better. There are those who let go of a toxic relationship and discovered a more genuine love. Small acts of detachment, applied in everyday life, can transform the way we live. Because, in the end, detachment is not about losing. It is about making room for what really matters. When we let go of the desire for control and embrace the flow of life, something amazing happens. We find true freedom. But what does it really mean to be free? For Lao Tzu, freedom is not about achieving more, but about needing less. We live in a world that teaches us that being free means being able to choose, accumulate, and shape reality to our will. But what if true freedom is not about adding layers to our identity, but about removing them? If we stopped defining our lives by what we own, what we do, or what others think of us, what would be left? Letting go leads us to this answer. When we let go of the need for approval, rigid expectations, and manufactured fears, we discover that we are already whole. We don't need to prove ourselves or fight against the current. Life becomes lighter because we are no longer carrying unnecessary weight. Think of a moment of profound peace you have experienced, perhaps watching the ocean, walking alone in nature, or feeling the stillness of a still morning. At such times, there is no need to be anything other than what you already are. There is no rush, no resistance. This state of pure presence is what Lao Tzu calls freedom. However, this freedom is not a final destination, but a daily practice. The world will continue to pull us into the illusion of control and attachment. But every time we choose to let go, we are cultivating a new way of being. To be free is not to escape from life, but to live it without resistance. It is to accept what comes, without clinging. It is to let go, without fear of what will come. Throughout this journey, we explore the illusion of control, the weight of attachment, and the lightness of surrender. But there is one final frontier to cross: the self. The identity we build throughout our lives is made up of stories, beliefs, and desires that define us. We cling to these narratives as if they were the absolute truth about who we are. But what if, as Lao Tzu teaches, identity is just a fleeting reflection in the river of existence? By letting go of not only external things, but also the need to define and protect the ego, we enter a state of profound freedom. We stop fighting life and start living it fully. This is true power. Not imposing, not resisting, but simply being. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu reminds us that, when I let go of who I am, I become who I can be. The ultimate letting go is not just letting go of what is outside, but letting go of who we think we need to be. Accepting this emptiness connects us to the essence of the present. We end the video with an invitation. Try, for a moment, letting go of everything. No expectations, no judgments. Just breathe and realize that you are already enough. Life is always moving, and when you surrender to the flow, you discover that you never needed to hold on to anything. If this message spoke to you, if you feel an inner shift, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's walk this path together. After all, letting go is not a destination, it's a way of being.